So our path right now is pretty much just go straight into the forest and keep pressing in a little further and a little further until eventually we've become strong enough to survive in the forest long term. Now, we haven't talked about it yet, but there is kind of sort of a bad piece of the game design when it comes to healing. You probably have noticed, but we don't really have any ability to heal ourselves, and that's because we don't. The only way currently that we could heal ourselves is with the inventory items. That is not the spell I meant to cast. Apparently we learned agility at some point. Oh, we learned silence. Restriction prevents an enemy from moving. Silence prevents them from casting spells. There's a meaningful difference in there, and I can't remember what it is. Anyway. Oh no, we did learn... Oh, evade raises your agility. I'm sorry, I thought evade did not raise your agility. Apparently it does. At any rate, healing. So we could use the limited healing items that we have in our pack, so to say. Although that would be, by and large, a finite solution. And because NPCs will only give you one of those items if you have none, that means at most we could only ever have like one fresh bread, right? And that makes a boss fight really difficult because we want multiple fresh breads. All the breads. One is usually only enough if you've been grinding a lot. Which we don't want to do. We want to avoid all the grinding that we can in this playthrough. But what I'm getting at is this means all builds, regardless of what element you're going for, regardless of what your strategy is, all builds need about, I think it's level 8, at least level 8 in water. Now I'm going to give you a hint. Water is the best element in the game, and it's not even just because of the healing spell. Water gets some of the most damaging, most useful utilitarian spells in the game. For starters, their early spells deal the most damage out of any of the spells, with the side effect that you have to get very close to an enemy to use it. Now, some of their other spells, their long-range spells, have a chance to freeze the enemy, which I don't need to tell you is pretty darn good. If you can deal damage and have a chance to freeze the enemy, that's great. Now, if you're using a spell like Restrict or Silence that only has a chance to freeze an enemy, it's not as good. But yeah, so water spells have a chance to freeze your opponents. You get the healing, but most importantly, and this is the most important for the end of the game, most importantly, you get... okay, good. I'll mention this in just a second. Most importantly, you get the Drain Magic spell, which at the end of the game is almost necessary for beating the game. I don't want to say it's necessary, but like, oh my goodness, it makes things so much more manageable. Essentially what it does is it takes MP from your opponent and gives it to you, which, because you're limited on MP, is very useful. Anyway, so at level 13 here, we unlock both the Wind Cutter level 3 and the Large Cutter spell. These are the two spells that are going to carry us through a large part of the game. I think you can see why. Large Cutter shoots a giant blade of wind in front of you, which will hit everything, dealing about 14 or 15 damage. That is huge, because that essentially let us do 45 damage with one spell. Now, we have Wind Cutter 3, which shoots out 8 blades. Certainly does not deal as much damage, but is very useful when fighting from a distance. But with the addition of these... Oops, meant to use Cutter 3. With the addition of these two spells, our offensive problems are essentially solved completely. Oh man, this kobold's gonna kill us. Do we escape? So here's a nifty trick. We can attack, and if this doesn't kill him, we'll escape at the same time. Oh, that's rough. So I know I said we didn't want to use our healing items, but unfortunately I managed this poorly, and so we're gonna have to use one. Would probably want to get out of this forest. Well, I don't know. Back up to 15 MP, we're probably fine. At least for the time being. Those kobolds are rough. They're probably one of the stronger enemies in this forest. So we should focus on killing him first. Oh, that's not good. Remember, the enemies take turns fighting you. So if you leave a weaker enemy alive, it'll waste the stronger enemy's turn. But now the kobold is only the thing that's going to get its turn, which makes it a little rough. In fact, we are going to have to get out of here. We can go over MP costs real quick. No spell in the game will ever cost more than 3 MP. Isn't that such a weird, like, mechanic choice? But it works. It's because you have to use spells for, like, everything. So the fact that this costs 3 is actually huge, right? Because our lower level spells only cost 1. But later on in the game, you'll have so much HP that you'll be able to belt out the 3 cost spells without really worrying about it. But yeah, it's just really weird. Wind Cutter is going to be... Wind Cutter times 3 and Large Cutter are going to be the wind spells, or the wind element's best spells in the game. You'll get other spells from Wind, but none of them are better than Large Cutter and Wind Cutter V3. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. It's probably a bad thing. You should probably get better spells the more you put points into an element. But it's kind of a side effect of Wind in general. Wind, as I said, does poorly at the end of the game, but at the beginning of the game it's really strong. So I don't know. Because it's the only element that's like that, I'm kind of okay with it. It's kind of the, hey, did you go in too hard for the short-term gain and the long-term loss? That doesn't mean that putting points into Wind is pointless, because you can still make your Wind spells deal more damage. But like, for instance, the highest level Wind spell is something called Cyclone, or Storm, or something like that. It hits everything on the screen, regardless of where you are, and it's pretty much garbage. Like, if memory serves correctly, it was dealing about 20 damage to everything on the screen. And you see how we're already dealing like 30? Now, admittedly, those are earth monsters, and earth creatures are weak to wind. It works like that. Wind is weak to earth, earth weak to wind, fire weak to water, water weak to fire. But even so, the Cyclone spell is just no good. And it's because of the way that combat is handled. If all the enemies got to attack every turn, maybe being able to hit everything all at once would be a good deal. But because the enemy only gets one turn before you get your next turn, it's not a big deal to hit everything, because you're only ever fighting one enemy at a time. You could almost think of all of the enemy's HP as being a collective pool. Like, you're not fighting 3 enemies, you're fighting one enemy unit that happens to have 3 bodies. Yeah, we don't want to be close to him. And because of that, Cyclone is just a useless spell. Or is it Storm? It's probably Storm. I keep saying the wrong name. You do get a tornado spell, I believe, but it's just worse than Large Cutter. Large Cutter is just so good. I think Large Cutter probably shouldn't have been given to the player this early. They should have swapped it with the tornado spell, or even the storm spell. Giving it to the player super early wouldn't have been a big deal, I don't think, because its damage is just so low. I think they were thinking like, oh look, Large Cutter, you have to get really close to the enemy to use it, but not really. And because it hits multiple enemies, it's just too good. If it didn't hit multiple enemies, it wouldn't be as good. Wouldn't nearly be as good. It'd be a good single target damage, but a lot of times you want AoE. Because there are very few battles that you fight where there's just one enemy like this. Oh, another reason why wind is the better element early is because, as I'm sure you've gathered, the thief stole the Earth Orb, so he has very powerful Earth magic, and by extension he is the Earth element, and therefore is weak to wind. So if we can help it, we want to leave the bat alive, so that we can just kill the kobold, and the kobold will lose his turn, except I did that wrong. Big reason why we're almost guaranteed to always take 8 damage from the kobold, which is just so much early on. Yeah, that's painful. We're gonna have to make a desperate run this way. If we get into a battle, we'll probably have to leave. You can kind of do weird things to try and oh shoot. Yeah. Gonna have to use another bread. So sad. Are we actually going to be down enough bread that the lady will... No. I was gonna say, we might be down enough bread that the lady would give us some, but it doesn't look like it. We have so much. I'm actually being quite wasteful with our items. We shouldn't have used any, or shouldn't have needed to use any. Okay, Kobold's gonna attack, but I don't think we can evade his spells either way. Fire's tough to evade. You can sort of evade it if you're right on the edge of their targeting, because what you can do is they'll cast it and then you run away from it and you leave the range. But at that distance we wouldn't be able to. Good, good, getting that water magic. Again, I think we need level 8 in water in order to successfully acquire the healing spell. And after that point, we're golden. But what I was saying, though, about being wonky to remove battles from the game, there are certain areas where battles can't happen. The game obviously doesn't tell you, but like this area right here, you can't get into a fight here. And if we had the healing spell, we could take advantage of that to recharge our MP by running around, heal ourselves, and then be back up at the full with no repercussions. So probably what we'll do is just hit all these guys with our staff. And then go in for one of these. Oop, that was a mistake. Now, admittedly, I got a little greedy with our wind. It's been a little while since I played this, and I thought maybe we could boost up to 13 wind before needing water. But I probably should have grabbed healing first. It would have removed our need to keep going back to the town. Yeah, we're only at 50%. Ugh, so many rabbits. I guess it doesn't matter that they're resistant to wind. Ah! Let's bonk him on the head. Every time you win a fight, Brian will jump up into the air and face the direction that you were previously traveling. That's actually a huge deal when it comes to navigating in some of the larger dungeons later on in the game, because it is so easy to get turned around. Hi, Shannon. Okay, we're back. Tried to do a little bit of searching online to see if we can set some of these audio properties to help with the desync. Because having to pause every 15 minutes and reset OBS is nonsense. Anyway, the game at this point is practically the race to level 8 water. Or is it level 6? Level 7? Somewhere around there. Race to level X water. Once we get there, we can continue playing the game for realsies. We're not gonna get all of it by... We're not gonna get all of it by grinding. I think there's 2 more spirits in here that if we are bold and adventurous, we can probably go out and get. Froggy. Ow. It is interesting, though, because of the nature of the combat being you, then the enemy, then you, then the enemy, is that you're almost happier to run into a fight with a lot of enemies. Because it means that you can use your AoE spells to deal damage to a lot of different targets, but you're only ever receiving damage from one target at a time. It throws the combat into just such a weird cadence. Different from any other game, really. Because in a normal game, you would see 3 enemies and go, shoot! They're going to be attacking me 3 times per round, and I need a way to defend against that. And here I'm just like, well, it's not a big deal, we'll just use our AoE and hit multiples of them and get more EXP this way, for less effort. Ugh. It's so sad, we're gonna have to go back. Can't believe it. Took 27 damage in that fight. I really goofed by not going after water early. We can talk about the enemy designs. There we go, that's how you dodge fire. I know it was hard to tell, but I was holding down on the the move away button. Yeah, did it again. So that by the time he cast the spell, Brian was running away. We're not going to be able to dodge this one. Got water pillar level 2. That's nice. We're going to be okay out here. Nothing in the grassy plains is going to actually harm us. Which begs the question, maybe we should be grinding out here. So the EXP we get from these guys is so small. It's so small, guys. It's probably not that bad. Battles would be over a lot faster, too. Let's check. 15%. Let's do a battle out here and see what we get. Okay, 15 to what? 25. It'd be 10 battles for a level. Not the end of the world. Still don't think it would be worth it, though. We're gonna run into battles when we go back and forth between the inn and here anyway. That was the wrong spell. $39. So what was that? 25 to 39. That was 14. So each doggo is worth about 3.3, 3.6, somewhere around there, percent. Hellhound doggos. I think whatever I did might have fixed the problem, though. I can hear myself in my headset just to make sure that there aren't any syncing issues. I know, this is Quest 64. Chezni talks about syncing issues on OBS for however many hours we've been recording. But, I'm excited. If this actually fixed the problem, this is coming through really nice. Anyway. Do 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 do. We cannot hit our healing spell level fast enough. And this is pretty normal for the early part of Quest 64. Regardless of what build you take, you have to run into this situation. Unless you're going a pure water build, you're going to run into this problem where you need to split your early elements between water and some kind of offensive spell. Now, if we wanted to go pure water, I mean, arguably we'd probably be fine. I don't find pure water builds to be very fun. The combat essentially boils down to, hey, cast a really big waterfall on the enemy. It killed everyone. Cool. I don't find it to be as fun as trying to line up the perfect large cutter shots. I also find the utility early on of fighting from a distance to be quite challenging with water, and that's the point. Water is supposed to be a very upfront spell category early on. That's the disadvantage, the balance, I would argue, to getting access to a very strong healing spell. So, when you think about it, you gotta get up close to people, but you're also healing it off, so... But otherwise, if you go for Earth, Wind, or Fire... the band. If you go for Earth, Wind, and Fire, you're gonna run into trouble because you don't have that healing spell. And that's really the biggest issue. I'm not sure how you fix that problem in this game, right? Like, how do you fix the problem of needing a healing spell? Because your one character has to provide... He has to fill all the roles that a normally your entire party would do, right? Like, normally your entire party would be supporting the team. Gosh, these kobolds. If we just would stop... Oh, okay, now they're just trolling us. We're just gonna run away from that. There's a spirit right around the corner here on this side of the road. And I really want it. But this is what I mean, though. Imagine this is your first time playing. I'm struggling, and I know there's a spirit over there that I need to get. The first, like, several times you play this game, and you're just trying to figure out, like, how do I build Brian? What spells are good? Like, this is just so challenging. It requires a lot of prior knowledge. But not necessarily in a bad way, because eventually, even if it's your first time, eventually you're going to... Brian is going to get tough, and I mean tough. He's going to run into this situation where he has a ton of defense, a ton of HP, a ton of agility, and regular enemies will eventually stop being a threat. So there is an out, so to say. Even if you don't have that prior knowledge, it's just going to take you a little longer. Yeah, tornado. Can't really dodge that. We probably shouldn't have fought that, but I really wanted the EXP. Okay, still don't have the healing spell. Where is that spirit? Could have sworn it was over here. We're really deep into the forest. We probably should leave. I just want to go a little further. Do we just throw caution to the wind and keep using our bread? Is that what we do? Can we large cutter? I know we can large the cutter, the one in front. Oh, I thought we could. Waste of a turn. Ah, miss! What is that? Don't tornado us, bro! No! Oh, alright. Yeah, we're gonna be out of MP, though. This is gonna make it rough. I think we'll go in for the staff hit, both to conserve our MP as well as gain one more back. Staff hits also raise HP, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, seriously, where is that spirit? We're so committed at this point. Like we either die getting the spirit, or we get it. There's no turning back at this point. We're too far into the forest. I'm gonna try and be a little conservative and use our long-range attacks. Ah, I thought we could get out of the kobold's range. Oh no. Alright. If we miss with this, we're probably dead. Okay. Not looking great. That's fine, I guess. This is our punishment. Shouldn't have been greedy. Oh, there's the spirit. Good grief, it's all the way over there. It's much farther than I remembered it being. It was probably more just that it was much farther than I wanted it to be. It really is the kobold that is the worst of our troubles. Those bats, no issue. Frogs, not really a problem. The marionettes are super easy because they're weak to wind. Okay, what do we got? Did we get? No. Alright, it's not level 6. Might actually be level 8. Ah, of course we missed the kobold. How do we do this? I think we actually use evade here. Because we want the bat to stay alive. Because if the bat stays alive, we get another free turn here to set up. Oh my gosh, this camera. There we go. That's what we wanted. We wanted to hit the kobold, but not the bat. Because that's going to let us get a turn where we take slightly less damage. Albeit, 6 damage from the bat was not ideal. How close are we to a level? Not close. But yeah, you can clearly see why not taking water at least to 8 is almost a death sentence. Getting 11 per fight? It's no bueno. Now, is there one last spirit out here? My memory is saying no. That we already got them all. There's just the 2 in this forest. A man trap? It's a man trap! It traps men! Otherwise known as the saloon girl, right? Or something. I'm sure there's a joke in there somewhere. Oh wow, he's not dead. Ow! Physical attack. For 8. Again. Okay, let's take a moment to kind of... Wait, is that a spirit? Yes, it is. Okay. Wait a bit, and there's a whole nother section of this forest where there's a spirit on the other side. Oh, thank goodness, we have healing. Okay, we get to play the game now. And yes, this is how you heal. 4 HP at a time. Again, most of you watching this probably would only search to look up a video like this if you had already played Quest 64, so you already know the pain. But, yeah, healing 4 HP at a time, not great. So there's Solvering. We're not gonna mess with him right now. We're gonna go take our newfound healing power and travel to the other side of the forest. Partially to get EXP and partially to... There might be a spirit over there. I think. Maybe. Perhaps. If we're lucky. Gosh darn it. Messed that up. Okay, the plant's gonna go next. How do we do this? It's the one bad thing about Wind Cutter, it auto-homes. So if you wanted to focus on the plant, it's a little tricky. And I think if we keep our distance, the plant can't hit us with a melee attack. I'm gonna do it like this. Oh, or the plant can just die and the bat will do a waterfall attack. Okay. And as crazy as this sounds, that was the fun part of the game. Now, I know that's nuts, right? Because it's like, wait a minute. We've been playing about, what, maybe 2 hours? And that's the fun part? But it is true. Once you nail a powerful damaging spell, once you acquire a powerful damaging spell, which we have through Large Cutter and Wind Cutter V3, and once you acquire the healing spell, you're essentially set for the entire game. At this point, we will eventually need the Drain Magic spell, but not until the very end of the game. Because it makes... Oh gosh, you fight this guy named Guilty, and his fight just lasts for what feels like years. And if you don't have a way to sustain your magic, you're just dead. But beyond the bosses, we have healing, we have wind damage, we just don't need anything else. So we're going to spec all our points into magic at this point. There's not a lot of incentive to do much else. Putting our point, or wait, did I say spec our points into magic? I meant spec our points into water. Because it's going to let our healing magic heal more, which is relevant, not because you really want to use the heal in battle. You almost never want to heal in the middle of battle, it's a waste of a turn. You'd much rather kill your opponents. But if you, what am I trying to say? Because we're constantly having to spam the healing spell in the first place, it does add up and cost a lot of MP. It's 2 MP per pop. So increasing the amount that healing heals essentially reduces its MP cost. That was not the right spell. Ah, he would have been dead if we used the right spell earlier. See what I mean, though? We're out of MP now. We're actually kind of in trouble. What is that noise? Like something driving outside the window. We could probably fight the bats. They don't do a lot of damage, and eventually they'll all fly in front of us anyway. We just kill them with a staff. Ah. These guys are probably wind, so they're resistant to wind. And I just passed our turn staring at this guy. Okay, we're gonna make it back to the house, which again, as described earlier, we can't get into a fight here. We're just gonna run around it a couple times and heal. It's very odd using a joystick for the C pads, or the C buttons. I mean, you know, of course, because this game was originally played on the N64, so... Originally played. I don't think this was ever re-released. There was a sequel planned to be made, but they scrapped it. Probably because this one did so bad. Just... There's so many good things about this game. I know it's not perfect, but, yeah, I don't know. The team, again, went on to make Aiden Chronicles, which I think we're going to play after this one. And Aiden Chronicles was just so much fun. It took all the pieces of Quest 64 and made them better. And then added about 50 more problems, but... We'll get into that when we get there. But I just love this concept of branching elemental spells that all relatively do pretty unique things. They don't just come down to damage. They come down to positioning and area of effect and do they home? Do they not home? What's their elements? What's the enemy weak to? Can you dodge the enemy's version of the spell? I said we were going to the other side of the forest. I'm getting very turned around. Ribbit. Again, not the right spell. Seemed to work out, though. Oh, we found a silver amulet? What does that even do? Protective Talisman increases defense 1.5 times. It just casts the Earth armor spell. I think this is the other side of the forest. It all looks so similar. The constant battles distracting us does not make it easier to navigate either. Crap. Ow. Just 4 damage isn't too bad. Does increasing your own element increase your resistance against that element? You would almost think it does, because we take only 4 damage from the tornadoes, but like 8 from fire. Eh. Not really important. It's a secondary effect at best, if it even is an effect at all. Don't worry, the violence, which was so brutal, has been censored by that tree. But yeah, we can't do it in one playthrough. Oh my goodness, get used to this. We can't do it in one playthrough, but essentially there are other ways to go through, given what we are currently focusing on. We're going to very much be focusing on a pure water build, more or less, at this point. 13 wind is really all we want. We'll go heavy into water. We could have gone into fire, gone the Vampiric Touch route. Earth is probably the hardest to go through the game with. You can almost bypass healing magic if you go fire. I mean, I still wouldn't. I would still put 8 points into water. But because your healing spells, or sorry, because your vampire touch spells heal you, you can almost get away with it. It's just really risky. Especially if you run into an enemy, like, a lot of boss fights become really sketchy. Because all the bosses have some kind of superpower move they get to use if you're right up next to them. I think they did that for balancing purposes, so that you couldn't just go up right next to them and hit them with your staff over and over. Ugh. Disgusting. Pure Wind will actually carry you pretty far. It just won't carry you really through the game. Well, you still, again, when I talk about builds for this point, let's just assume that I'm talking about you've taken 8 levels in water, because you kind of have to with everything. So when I say pure... Why did I do that? When I say pure water, or sorry, when I say pure air, I mean air with 8 levels of water. You can go pure air, and it'll carry you through a very large point of the game. And, I mean, arguably, you can still do it. You don't need Drain Magic, because as long as you use your items intelligently, you really won't run into an issue of, running out of MP, but it'll be close. You need to be very conservative with your high-level MP healing items and save them all for the end. Interestingly, Earth, while the hardest early, has the best spell against the last boss in the game. So there's that, I guess. Now, do we tango with this guy? We're probably more than strong enough to fight him at this point. This is kind of funny. You can go steal his stuff before he gets upset with you. As long as you don't walk into his trigger zone. Yeah. Oh, there's nothing up here. We don't want to fight him starting at his campfire. We really do want to fight him right in front of him. It's going to give us our best chance to dodge. So we're not going to tempt fate and go around those barrels. Okay. At this point, now we just need to fight him. Let's do it! What's this? What business do you have in the castle of Solvering, king of beasts? Did that fool in Dondoran order you to come after me? Idiocy! I stole the Earth Orb and it is all mine. With it, I'll become the ruler of Kenishire. I'll show you humans what real power is. So I'd like to say we're going to do something really clever or intelligent when we fight this guy. But ultimately, we're going to run around the edge of the ring, casting Windcutter level 3 at him over and over again. And the reason for this is because he's Earth, Windcutter 3 does a lot of damage, and every time he casts that... Now, it looks like fire, but I'm pretty sure it's an Earth spell. It's supposed to be like Molten Magma or something. We can just run sideways. And you see there, we're able to dodge it. We're not actually getting hit. And this is essentially the first boss fight. There's no other technique that you need. Now we will need to use a mint leaf or two. Oh, maybe not. Just kidding. Guess we were way more powerful than I thought. Earth Orb obtained. And we get to go back to the kingdom and let everyone know we are the champions, my friends. It'd be nice if we could warp wing back, but we can't use them in the forest. At this point, there isn't a lot of reason to fight these monsters. The EXP they provide is minimal at best. It would pad out some of our core stats, like our MP and our... what else am I looking for? MP, HP, that kind of stuff. I think we'll be good, though. We'll take the chance. Ah, can't escape. These guys die pretty quickly anyway. Come on, man. Why you dodge? I don't want to be that close. It's always something I think about, though. Like, is running away really that bad from fights like this? I don't want to fight these guys. We don't really get much from it. But again, we miss out on our core stats being raised. We probably don't need it anyway. I'll fight these guys, because they're pretty easy. It's interesting, they use wind, but they almost appear to be an earth element due to the way they take damage. The big flower is like that too. We don't have to go back to the castle. We could just continue on with the game, because the door that was locked that prevents us from progressing in the forest is now unlocked. But we do get a little bit of dialogue difference with the king after getting the orb, as well as he opens up a door to give us some goodies. Rude. Killing all those bats isn't even that worth that much EXP. Oh my gosh, I got turned around. That's almost the better reason to finish a battle, is so that when you get out of it, it points you in the direction you were traveling anyway. Oops. Eventually we'll transition away from using the wind cutter, and we'll go straight into something called walking water. Possibly even steam, or steam? Steam is a water spell, I think. It's a really nice spell. It hits everything around you and has a chance to freeze them. Healing really is a waste of a turn in this game. Again, if all the enemies took their turns simultaneously, healing would be frustrating, but it is essentially a free turn for us if they want to spend it healing. Did we get anything cool in water? Soul Searcher. So Soul Searcher is an interesting spell. It tells you, I believe, the element of an enemy, but it has a chance to fail, but it's kind of annoying. We'll use it on one of the next fights we do if it's trivial. Yeah, this one's pretty trivial. Let's see if I can test my theory. Are these guys Earth? I think yes. But we'll need a successful soul search to check. Oh my gosh. We'll get there eventually. This spell really just shouldn't have had a fail rate. It doesn't really add anything to the game. Or at least it shouldn't have had a fail rate against normal enemies. I understand maybe you don't want to give away all the stats of a boss or something. Finally. So what's even more frustrating, it'll only show the enemy's stats on their turn. So we'll wait and let him take a turn. Frog Knight. No, it's water. Huh. Oh my gosh. Yeah, water, attack of 5. I guess they just have low attack. Water's not weak to wind, is it? No. That would be silly. It is kind of neat, though, because certain enemies may have an element you wouldn't expect them to have. Because a lot of times you're like, oh, the Frog Knight's using wind. It's probably wind. And it ends up being something different. Oh my gosh. But yeah, if you're still with us at this point, what things do we have to look forward to? I wasn't joking when I said the best part of the game is over. At this point, the combat kind of falls apart. And it's a slow process. Like, it doesn't fall apart all at once. But it struggles to introduce new, meaningful content. We'll get stronger spells, and that's fun. Well, stronger spells in water. And we'll meet new enemies, and some of them do legitimately require you to think differently. Like, some of the enemies in this game are terrifying, especially the wyverns. Like, when I was a kid, how many of you Quest 64 players can relate to this? When I was a kid, Cull Hazard stressed me the heck out. Like, I was just terrified of Cull Hazard. It's a horrible place. And as a child, looking at the wyverns and honestly not being that good at games in general, and just being like, what do I do? How do I kill it? And I would sit there and fight one for like 15 minutes and not kill it, and then just end up running away. That probably wasn't 15 minutes, but you get the picture. Should we even rest? It's kind of the thing. After you get your healing spell, you don't need to rest at inns anymore. The robber seems to have gone away. I wonder who conquered him. Even an attack by soldiers couldn't do the job. Must be some fantastic warrior. Yeah, I'm sure. Hi, Crystal. Welcome to Dondoran. Oh, her dialogue doesn't change. A hearty welcome. How many people's dialogue changed? Throne room is through the... Yeah, most people's dialogues don't even change. Kind of disappointing. Not like they had much to say in the first place. Your victory was most unexpected. I never thought the magic of an apprentice could succeed where a knight's sword could not. You succeeded where my bravest knights have failed. It's just as the Grand Abbot foretold. I hereby bequeath you the Earth Orb. It will help you in the search for your father and the Eltel book. Listen carefully. A hidden door behind the throne room is open. You may take from it any treasures you need. Your courage must be rewarded. I do think it's kind of funny. He's like, oh no, my Earth Orb. Oh, okay, you can just take the Earth Orb. But he is right. We are going to need it. Healing potion. I think that heals about 150. Hero's drink. That does something important. Can't remember what it is. Replicas let you run away from battles. Yeah, and you see these barrels here? Oh, I thought we couldn't get back here. What I thought was one of the weird loading zones was back here. Maybe I got that wrong. Oh well. The weird hidden loading zones. Again, the game is largely unfinished. Or huge, massive pieces were just cut from it. Oh, we forgot to talk to the princess. Huge, massive pieces were cut from it, but the pieces that we did get are good. Like, there may be weird secret loading zones hidden about walls that you shouldn't be able to travel through, but what game doesn't have those? That people dig up years later. This is not the princess's room. She was what? Upstairs? But I would imagine Flora probably originally was supposed to join you, like, either when you went to go fight the bandit or after you won. Well, it's the apprentice. This is the Princess Flora's room. Should the... Oh, okay, her lines are just completely the same. I really didn't think you could do it. But now you have our undying gratitude. Are you sure you're just a magician's apprentice? Your powers must be beyond compare. So boring. Alright. At this point, there's nothing really to do here in... What place are we in? Dundorn. And there won't be. There's almost never a reason to revisit any village once you've passed through. And in fact, this is the most... Oh my goodness. This is the most alive, quote, alive feeling village. It's kind of fun, because the longer we play this, the world will start to fall apart. Like, NPCs... Oh my goodness, how do we get out of here? NPCs will start feeling more random. Places will start to feel much more abandoned. And at the end of the game, we do this whole big part where we go through this castle and everything, and it feels like there's this grand epic story, and we're just completely not getting any of the dialogue for it. It's pretty cool. It's actually one of my favorite parts of the game. Because it feels like an unfinished just place they had to tack on there at the end, because they built it. They had to put it in the game somewhere. Anyway. I'm going to take a quick pause here. When we come back, we're going to be exploring the wilds beyond the forest. I can never remember the forest's name. But it's only going to get harder from here, right? Or at least the monsters are going to get harder. I'll be right back.